What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Coke 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway for Sunday, May 26th around 6 p.m. Eastern. And this is the best motorsports weekend of the year. We have all three series for NASCAR, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. Also have Monaco for F1 and the Indy 500, which I don't usually care about anything outside of NASCAR, but with Kyle Larson being in the Indy 500 this year, I will have some slight interest, although it does look like there's some weather in the forecast for both the Indy 500 and Coke 600, but hopefully that'll stay away. But anyway, if this happens to be your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays, and with this being a night race, we're once again going to do an evening stream. I don't know what it's going to be yet, probably around 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern, but be there, come in, say hi, always a good time. And really quick, I gave a shout out to last week's comment contest winner for the All-Star race, as we had Bob guess Joey 82 fantasy points, which I believe he scored around 115, but he was the closest of everybody. I mean, Joey Logano absolutely killed the field. So if you want to win this weekend or enter, all you gotta do is comment down below who you think is going to lead the most laps and how many, and the winner will end up getting a cash prize. And if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and let's dive right into it. All right, so let's talk some strategy here for Charlotte. And while it is an intermediate track, 1.5 miles in length, we cannot treat it as a normal intermediate because we have 400 laps instead of the usual 267 when we have 400-mile races. This is going to be 600 miles. It's going to be a marathon. I'm sure there's going to be some deaths out there, and I say that figuratively. Hopefully no one dies. But based off of what we've seen in 2023 and 2022 for the Coke 600, I'm sure there's going to be chaos at some point. Just don't know when it will happen. As far as the roster construction is concerned, I know there's more laps in this race, but it's probably going to look very similar to how you would normally build for a 1.5, because these main dominators are probably just going to lead longer than they normally would, but it's still just going to be like 2 to 3 guys that I think up top that you'll most likely want. I'm recording this before practicing qualifying, as you all know, for the early portion, and I do the rest afterwards. But I would be very shocked if it's not just some of the main guys we see at these track types every single time. If we're looking at the 2024 overall green flag speed numbers, you can probably guess who's up top. It's Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott. I mean, those are the guys that have been hot this year. Those are the guys that we typically see up front if we're looking at similar tracks in the next gen era. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Tyler Reddick. And if we're looking at the specific tire combination this week, which is the 1.5s we've been at plus Darlington, once again, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher's up there as well, which is nice to see. And then Ty Gibbs, William Byron, and Martin Truex Jr. I feel like I have said these same exact names every single time. It's just in a different order. So do not be shocked if you see these guys to the top of the practice boards, or the top of qualifying, or the top of the race. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first, and that is, of course, if you want to join the best NASCAR DFS community out there, link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. You get access into my entire NASCAR model, which is more than I show you over on YouTube. Projections for both sites, ownership projections, my own optimizer, cheat sheets. My betting dashboard goes over my fair odds and projections and percent probabilities of things happening for outright bets, top 10s, top 5s, and top 3s, and comparing them to certain sports books. And I also cover Xfinity, Trucks projections, and the optimizer, and just projections in general. And I do cover baseball every single day in a similar fashion if that is something you're interested in. And I do articles for cash games, tournaments, and my bets for NASCAR as well. So you want to come in, check it out, and get access to the Discord community. Link is down below in the description or the pinned comment, and check it out. And my prices are very fair compared to everybody else in the industry. And as you all know, I'm a partner with Stochastic, and they did launch their NASCAR Sims tool. So if you want to check it out, help give yourself an edge on Sundays in addition to whatever I do. You can upload my own projections, use their own custom ones, or use your own if you want, and use their contest generator and pre-contest simulator to see which lineups stack up the best in tournaments on Sundays and which drivers offer the best return on investment. So if you want to check it out, use the link down below and make sure you tell them I sent you. All right, it's the next day and practicing qualifying just concluded a few minutes ago. This is my first run down through the entire slate with you all together. My first initial reactions. I'll have the more updated stuff on the Patreon later tonight and the live stream tomorrow evening. And I do want to go over, just to show you guys practice, how that went down. Group A is in yellow, Group B just in plain white here. And as you can see, it's pretty spread out for the most part. It looks like Group B has some faster overall lap times. But like I said, the guys you are probably going to see up front, based off the speed we've seen at similar tracks this year, the tire combinations, or just what we've seen in the next gen. William Byron only did 1 lap, he spun out, so we can kind of throw that away. But Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin's right there, Tyler Reddick. We'll have to talk about him because he has a bit of an issue to start this race. So kind of the familiar faces you would see here. But let's head back over to the list, and we'll start with the 5-figure range. We have Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron. Looks like a lot of very similar plays here based off of starting positions with the first three. Then we have William Byron on the front row. We'll start with Kyle Larson. It looks like he's going to have the best car in this race. I know, everyone's surprised, but 6th in the 1 lap, 1st in the 5, and 1st in the 10. It's not like we had a short track and we had these 15, 20, 25, 30 lap runs ran by everybody, so a little bit limited data, but from what we saw, Kyle Larson looks like to have the best car, and that should be no surprise to anybody. Opened up as the favorite to win this race, and every single time we're at 1.5, Kyle Larson tends to be the man. We have seen that be the case once again this year, so no reason to believe it'll be different in this one. Then Denny Hamlin, pretty much the same exact play as Kyle Larson, although I do think Larson's a bit safer in cash games, and based off of practice, it seems like he has a slightly better car. But Hamlin's one of those guys where I don't really care about practice times too much. Obviously, if he's fast, that's great, but even if he's not the fastest car, they tend to figure it out, and every single race this year, we see the 11 team up front at some point. So both these guys, fantastic plays, but I do lean Larson slightly. Then Ryan Blaney, I would definitely have him a tier below the big two here with Larson and Hamlin. They've just been so dominant this year, and Ryan Blaney, he's in a Ford, and obviously they don't bring a ton of speed at these track types, although they have been getting better recently. And he did show some decent long run speed here. He was 17th in the 5, which I don't love, 12th in the 10, but 1st in the 15 and 2nd in the 20. But as you can see, a lot of these great cars did not run 15, 20 lap runs, so that could be a bit misleading because you know if Larson, Byron, Reddick, Truex, Christopher Bell, those kind of guys running that, it's going to look a bit better than it might actually be during the race. So I don't think he's going to be terrible. He usually is the best Ford, or if not close to it, at these 1.5 mile tracks. I don't really see him having too much Dominator upside here. I think he can run well, but at $10,300, I just feel like there's so much more upside with guys like Larson and Hamlin. We've seen it all season long. I would say he's a better play on FanDuel, where he's a little bit cheaper, and the Dominator points don't really stack up as much. So more of a FanDuel play for me this weekend. And then William Byron, $10,000. He's starting in 2nd. Probably going to have a hard time getting to too much Byron. I know he's going to have that track position, but you have Ty Gibbs, who is a similar play to William Byron, but you get him a $2,000 discount. Now, I would much rather play these guys with some extra PD mixed in, who I think could be more Dominator threats as the race progresses. So probably won't have a ton of William Byron, especially over on FanDuel, where those Dominator points aren't going to add up as much. So Larson, Hamlin, definitely the premier plays in the 5-figure range, and then William Byron, Ryan Blaney in that 2nd tier. Moving down to the 9K range, Tyler Reddick, $9,700. He's starting in 8th. Looks like he's got a strong car. The problem with him is he is going to have to go to the rear to start the race, and he'll be scored from 8th. So you're starting out with negative points, and he has to do a pass-through penalty. I think at some point he'll get back in the lead lap, but it's just another added twist to him I don't really want to deal with, especially if it's like a cash game. Absolutely no consideration there. And if you're playing 1 to 3 lineups, I think it's just too much of a risk to want to play Tyler Reddick. So the only way I'd get to him if I'm building 150, 20 lineups, something like that. And the thing is, though, I mean, at these track types, Tyler Reddick, extremely good. As you can see, these numbers are near the tops of the chart in most categories here. Extremely fast, but just don't let him have to drop to the rear and do the pass-through penalty when I can get guys like Martin Truex Jr., or William Byron, Ryan Blaney at similar price points that don't have to deal with that. Martin Truex Jr., I do have some bets on him this weekend. I also forgot to mention I do have William Byron for a top 5 at plus 175. And then I have Martin Truex Jr. to win at plus 1,200, half a unit on that. And then also him to get a top 5 at plus 180. And based off what I saw on Saturday's session, I feel pretty good about that. Like what I saw from Marty. Thought he was going to get the pole, but screwed up the end of his qualifying lap. But I like his price point here. I think he's playable on both sides. Probably more so as a tournament play. Can't really see getting to him in cash games, but nighttime Marty is a thing. And I think he will be a threat to dominate at some point. And if we're looking at his numbers that we've seen so far this year and at Charlotte in the next gen era, looks pretty good overall. Hasn't really been leading too many laps, but he has been getting fast laps, and he's been very strong this year, getting flag speed-wise, so I think Truex is an excellent tournament play. Chase Elliott kind of in a similar situation as Truex, although I do prefer MTJ here. Just didn't really show as much speed, and as you can see, 2nd in the 15 and 1st in the 20, but not many guys ran that. So in a similar play here, same with Christopher Bell, but I do think Truex will lead the way for me. So if I had to rank this range, it'd be Truex, probably Chase Elliott, Bell, and then Tyler Reddick with him dropping to the rear. Going down to the 8K range, we have some really good place differential plays here. And really, this is just a loaded range in general. It looks like a range that I will get to quite often. So if you're just like using one of these 10K guys, one of these 9K guys, you should be able to fit in a 8K driver or 2 in your builds, which looks like it's going to be a pretty strong way to go this weekend. So we'll start with Joey Logano, $8,800, really cheap on FanDuel, 8,000 flat. He'll be starting in 28th. Did not show too much speed in practice, and honestly, I don't really have high hopes for Joey in this race. If you're playing him, you just kind of have to hope that he limps his way to around 15th, which I think he's certainly capable of doing. And if you're looking at the sample size here that I'm looking at, average running position around 14.8, average finish of 19th, he should be able to find his way into the top 20, but I'm not expecting a great race from Joey. If I had to pick between these three, I'm going to prefer Buescher and Keselowski. I just think they're going to have more speed overall, and I love what I've seen from them so far in recent weeks. And speaking of them, Brad Keselowski here, $8,700. He's in 30th. He'll be a fine PD play. Kind of like Joey Logano, he usually just finds his way to 15th if he didn't qualify well or practice well. If we're looking at the practice times here, though, 35th in the 5 lap, 14th in the 1. Just one of those weeks where I think Keselowski probably won't be the fastest car out there, but they don't make too many mistakes and they just find their way to 15th, and you'll be okay with that. But Chris Buescher is going to be the cash game staple point here. He is starting pretty much dead last. That'll be Timmy Hill, but was really fast in practice. 7th in the 1 lap, 3rd in the 5, and 3rd in the 10. If we're looking at the tire combination, reflex speed, data that I was looking at earlier in the weekend, he was at near tops of the chart. So I don't think he's going to be a top 5 contender with him starting at the very back, but this is a very long race. He can find himself being in a great value at only $8,500 starting last. So he will be a cash game staple point here, because I don't know if you're going to be able to fit all three of these guys in, and I don't think you have to play Joey by any means, but I'm ranking them. It's Buescher, Keselowski, and Joey Logano. And we continue the good plays in the 8K range. You have Ty Gibbs on the pole, $8,300. Feels a little gross if you want to go this route, but if you're looking for a cheap dominator, then just filling it in with some of these PD plays and these guys starting 10th and 11th as other second doms with your Ty Gibbs build, you can do that. I mean, he looked extremely strong in practice. 5th in the 1 lap, 2nd in the 5, 2nd in the 10, and 3rd in the 15. He's been strong this year so far. Obviously, he's young and he's still learning, and there'll be mistakes out there. But if he can lead a decent chunk of this race and just stay within the top 5, getting fast laps at that price point, that can work out. I don't think you have to play him in cash games. I wouldn't say he's a lock by any means, but he should have one of the better cars. And you were getting a Joe Gibbs car at $8,300, stringing the pole, fast in practice, the best pit stall out there, good track position. Really not much not to like. I know it just feels weird playing Ty Gibbs on the pole, but the guy's been fast this year, so I don't really have any concerns. It's just a matter of how long can he lead until a guy like William Byron gives him fits, or Kyle Larson, or Denny Hamlin. It's also a very long race for a younger driver to make some mistakes, but I do think Ty Gibbs has the talent to be able to pull through at that price point. Ross Chastain, $8,200. He's starting in 7th. Killed this race. It was either last year or the year prior to that. We know he's really good at these intermediate tracks. Just didn't show a ton of speed in practice. 9th in the 1 lap, 13th in the 5, and 23rd in the 10. I don't think he's going to be a race-winning contender, but at that price point, I mean, him and Kyle Busch are just so cheap to where if they finish around the top 5, top 8 with some fast laps mixed in, that can work out if these PD plays just get stuck in the back and don't really move up. So all these guys are more cashy plays. These guys are more tournament-y. Although Ty Gibbs, I could see some people using in cash games just because he could lock up some dominator points. But I would say more so Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch are definitely the pivots off of these PD plays. They're not going to project as well, but the ownership would certainly be a lot lower. If I had to pick between Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch, I'll go with Kyle Busch here. He showed some really good speed in practice, 4th in the 5 lap and 4th in the 10. He's only $8,000, which I think this is the cheapest I've seen Kyle Busch at a track like this in forever. And he's starting in 15, so we have some PD upside. And I cannot fact check this off the top of my head, but I believe they said on the broadcast that he has like 7 straight top 10s at Coke 600. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And as you can see in this data set that I'm looking at, some really strong numbers here. 10.2 average finish, 12.2 running position, and also 4 top 10s the last 5 races, which is not specifically Charlotte, just the 1.5s this year and the 2 Charlotte races. So I think Kyle Busch is definitely in play at only $8,000. Dropping down to the 7K range, we have Alex Bowman starting in 6th. This is probably just going to be a little bit too high for me. I think he can run okay, but there's just a lot of downside here for him, as he was 11th in the 5 lap and 10th in the 10. So I think it's likely he moves back. I'd rather play Bubba Wallace starting in 12th here. 3rd in the 1 lap, 22nd in the 5, 19th in the 10. But I do like this 23 team at these 1.5s. But honestly, I don't really see myself getting the too much of either, because I do prefer Kyle Busch right above him. And then the 8K range is just loaded. So I'm not really sure how much we'll get to the 7K range anyway. Obviously, I've not yet run projections, ownership, so I don't know exactly what my projections are going to like. I usually do side with those more than my own opinions because it's smarter than my own thoughts, I guess. But probably won't get to a ton of either. Noah Gragson. Gragson's interesting. So first off, we have 3 Bass Pro cars this week, and it's going to be very confusing. So you're going to get them confused the entire race. It's Truex, Austin Dillon, and Noah Gragson. They look slightly different, but it's going to be a fun time trying to figure out who is who. But Gragson has some decent speed here for starting in 19. 7th in the 5 lap, 6th in the 10, 12th in the 15, and 6th in the 20. And we have seen this 10 car have some decent speed this year. So Gragson would be in the player pool for me, especially with that starting position and based off what we saw in practice. Chase Briscoe doesn't look too interesting to me. $7,300, 30th, 21st, 26th in practice. He'll be starting at 18th. Just give me no Gregson, his teammate, who looked much stronger. Eric Jones starting in 34th, 16th to one lap, and we didn't get anything else after that. If we're looking at the specific data set, running position of around 20th, average finish right around 20th, 2 top 15s and 3 top 20s. I think it's fine for the PD, but he's not going to be like a must play. But if you are in that price range, you have $7,500 left, and you have to pick between Gregson and Jones, I would say it's probably Jones in cash and then Gregson in tournaments. But other than that, I don't really like this 7K range. So I guess for me, it's Gregson and Jones. And then if you want to take a stab at Bubba Wallace, you can, just because of the price point. We know the upside he has at 1.5s, but not a ton of interest there. Save for Josh Berry in 13th. Don't really like that too much. 10th in practice for the 5 lap, 9th in the 10, which is okay. But for a starting position, I don't see a ton of upside. Daniel Suarez, again, just not great speed. Probably finishes somewhat close to where he starts, but I just think there's better upside for a little bit more expensive. And then getting to the 6K range here with Michael McDowell starting in 9th, I will pass on that. Austin Dillon in 27th, 8th in the 15 lap, but I believe only 11 or 12 drivers ran that, so that's not saying much. 21st in the 10 lap. He might be able to gain a couple of spots, but I don't think there's a lot of upside for Austin Dillon here. His teammate was really fast, Kyle Busch, but there's obviously a big talent discrepancy in that. If you look at his overall numbers here for this data set, 18.9 running position, 16th average finish, 2 top 10s. Like, there is some decent finishes mixed in there, and if there's some carnage, he could certainly move his way up. So I'm not going to call him the worst play in the world, but I don't think based off of speed, he's going to look anything great. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually had some decent speed now. Obviously, there might be some beef between him and Kyle Busch, but he did say in a podcast that he is not going to go out there and wreck him, but we'll see what happens. Ricky, you know, he tends to get in wrecks himself even when he's not trying, but 9th in the 5 lap, 8th in the 10, I think he's in play. He definitely looks a lot faster than Austin Dillon. Todd Gilliland in 35th. He's fine PD here. As you can see, when the odds opened up, he did have some better odds compared to everybody else in this price range. Put up 15th, 28th, and a 10th. Not great, but he should be able to move up. Ryan Preece. Been a tough season for Ryan Preece. I think I would probably prefer Todd Gilliland here, but the practice speeds are pretty similar here, but I can get 4 extra spots out of Preece. Carson Hocevar, I do have a weird bet on him this weekend. Top 10 at plus 1,200, but that was only a quarter of a unit. Like what I saw in the 1 lap, but after that it got a little bit worse. 31st, 20th, and 7th. So Hocevar, the same play every single week. He's right around $6,000. He starts in 20th, and you just kind of have to hope he holds his position. Tournament play only for me. 3A sample size for Hocevar here, running position of 17th. 1 top 10 and 2 top 15. So he'll probably be like a 15, 20 place car in this race. But obviously the starting position does offer some downside. Austin Cindric just usually can't do it for me. Guy just doesn't bring a ton of speed at these track types. 5 race sample size, average finish of 31st, running position of 21st, and 0 top 20s to show for it. Jimmy Johnson, beyond wash these days. Don't trust him to finish this race. John Hunter Nemechek will probably spin several times, although he did show a little bit of speed in the car. 24th, 17th in the 10 lap, 4th in the 15, 3rd in the 20, but those numbers just really are hard to look at just because not as many drivers ran those. If I had to pick between the two, I would probably take John Hunter over Jimmy Johnson, but these guys are just absolute wreck and spin machines every single week. And then we have a long list in the 5K range, but it just looks like just a bunch of junk here. Corey LaJoie did show some speed in practice, 12th, 8th, and 11th. Looking at the sample size here, usually right around 25th place cars, so I think it's likely he's going to lose spots. Like, I'm not excited about Corey LaJoie. Justin Haley, 18th and 19th in practice. Haley has been quite surprising this year. He's definitely been pretty good. So if I had to pick between him or Corey LaJoie, might side with Justin Haley based off what we've seen so far this season. Harrison Burton starting in the back at 32nd, but let's just be honest, that's probably where he belongs. Zane Smith has been terrible this year. He's starting too high up for me. SVG in 36. I could see people going there just because of the name, but if you're looking at practice, he was 39th in the 1 lap, which was the worst of any driver out there. 36th in the 5 and 29th in the 10. So, like, yes, there is PD there, and if there's carnage, maybe, but based off of speed alone, I wouldn't say SVG looks like a standout to me. Daniel Hemrick starting too far up. Kaz Grala in 33rd, 12th in the 5 lap, 14th in the 10. That definitely is some speed. Like, if you're just trying to jam in multiple dominators and Kaz Grala is the last piece fit, I guess you could definitely do worse. Ty Dillon, $5,200, starting in 38th. Like, he's viable. Like, same thing as Kaz Grala. If you're just trying to fit in multiple dominators and he has more PD with it. 32nd in the 5 lap. He's in the 50 car. It could be worse. It could be worse. JJ Yeley, like, see, it could be worse. It could be JJ Yeley, who's probably going to run down last the entire race. And then BJ McLeod's also in the 66, so that'll be the battle for last place right there, but I have no interest in either. But with that being said, that'll be it for the video, so I appreciate you watching, and if you enjoyed, make sure you like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. If you want to check out all the extra content, it'll be over on the Patreon, link down below in the description, or the pinned comment for that. Hopefully I'll see you all in the live stream tomorrow. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.